make the stacks blow, rolling smoke out my nose, leaning on the console.
It's good to hear that, man. We did the podcast the other day at my house, which is more laid back.
Yep.
But I didn't have these on. I didn't have that music.
Wasn't the same, man.
I'm not much of a dancer, but it
Wasn't the same.
gets me in that mood, man. It's almost weird introducing this guy that we've got on today. And you guys know we have guests on every couple of weeks, but I got onto this guy's Instagram page just by you talking about him, back in the day or whatnot. He's a real estate guy, mogul, but really fun watching. But man, he's been on like the talks that he does, content that he's putting out resonates. I feel like it's authentic. I don't want to get into like any negativity, but I do think there are a lot of charlatans out there that just haven't actually built contextually
Real
things
stuff,
that they
man.
try to speak to. I know there's this land grab in entrepreneurship, especially in real estate with courses and leadership and coaching and all these things, and people are just throwing a ton of romantic stuff out there, and they haven't necessarily contextually built things to be able to speak to certain stuff. And obviously coaching myself and certain things and Marine Corps background, it's like there's just a certain creed we got to live by with that, right? But this dude I appreciate his stuff, and you can tell there's just a body of work behind it. There's just a different way people can speak to certain things and what they choose to post. And but I almost don't want to say this number because it's more than ours, but he's done over 7,000 houses.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Owner of We Are the Day.
Yep.
Jimmy fucking Rex, man.
That's right.
What's up, dude?
Jimmy.
Thanks for having me, guys.
You're welcome,
I appreciate you.
Welcome.
Excuse the language. I don't know where I'm at as far as like, people that appreciate
your podcast. Say whatever the hell you want.
Oh man, he's my kind of guy. I know as soon as I'm on his, he's gonna be like, all right, Will, check it out. I'm fucking Mormon, and my 19 wives are not gonna accept that. So shut your mouth.
You would be false on all the above. But no, it's funny. I was talking to somebody today because he got offended by something somebody said, and I was trying. It was two guys that I coach, and they're in the group together. And it's anytime there's an issue, I want to make sure we solve it. So I got them both in the same room, and it was so funny to me. Like the dude was offended over something that was not offensive at all. And I'm sitting here listening to this, and I'm like, man, are we still, we're really being offended by shit like that still, And it really, it's just kind of interesting because one thing I do like about the podcasting and what it's done is it allows us to speak freely and to actually talk and have enough time to have a real conversation around some of these things that people don't want to speak about. And like you guys said in the intro, I've really gotten a lot of traction by just speaking my truth and not holding back. So I can appreciate it.
Yeah, well, and a lot of us can appreciate it, right? Because, like I was telling you before we even got on air, it was like, hey, man, it's fun to feel like we're in a position in business where, not that we rate, you're a good dude. I'm sure you talk to a lot of folks regardless of their financial success, but I feel like we've hit a certain level in business that speaks the language of the level that you're at, if that makes sense, right? Like when you live enough in business and you hit enough certain success levels, there's just a different palette for certain things and making sense to it. And I think deep down, man, because of the Marine in me, I aspire to hit certain ranks to be able to just respectfully speak to certain people because I've built a body of work, right? Like it's always been important to apply what you learn, build so people can feel like you actually apply what they open their mouth to you about, right? So super important
there's
as well.
two things. Like one is you're just not going to get much depth if you're in conversations where the person doesn't understand, doesn't have the experience that you do. So I can totally understand that. But there is a form of intelligence as a coach that you have to be able to then dummy the message down to anybody so they can understand it, right? Like we've all listened to smart people that you just can't stand listening to them. You're like, I can tell you're brilliant and you seem miserable and nobody knows what the hell you're talking about. And it doesn't do anybody any good. So, but I totally get what you mean. Yeah.
Great leadership can take complex scenarios and make them very simple, right? Education makes things that are very simple and turns them complex, right? But true to the nature, man, like for folks that maybe don't know you, like let's just start diving into it, man. Like who are you? What are you all about? Where you got your start, specifically what you do, and most importantly, like I haven't seen you share it, but I might not have dove enough deep into. I see a lot of your Instagram stuff, but what was like that literal day $1 for you? Was it like straight out of high school and you're living in your car? Who knows, right? Or were you working for a corporation for a long time? But super excited, man, to dive into like what your actual day $1 was and your transition into what you do now with real estate.
Sure. Yeah. I wish I had a day one $0. My day one was about $120,000 debt. So it's a little bit different story. When I was younger,
so for everyone, just so they're clear, day one, negative 120,000.
There we go.
Cool.
Yeah. My first day of real estate, I literally was desperate for real estate because I started a meat business, door-to-door meat business, and it had gone really well for a while, but I had a business partner that stole a bunch of money. And it's a whole nother story. But so I essentially got into real estate, and by the way, it was the gift of my life because I started real estate with about $120,000 debt, and I was desperate to get rid of it. I mean, in my culture in Utah, it's like the women are taught, like, if the guy has credit card debt, we're talking $1,500.
Devilish.
Red flag, run away. And I'm over here with the 120 grand debt from a failed meat business that I took on all the debt and everything. And so I came out swinging, man. And, my first 6 months, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was still floundering and trying to work the meat business and a TV show as well as the whole thing. I was just trying to find myself. And it came a moment where I was broke, and my partner took off with all this money. And so I decided that day to shut down the meat business and go all in on real estate. I hired a coach, Mike Ferry. And it's interesting. I went to this event, and one of my mentors was teaching the event, and at the time, I got my hat backwards. I got like holes in my jeans. I'm 24 years old, just a punk kid. And I remember it was a 3-day seminar. On day one, it was like, and I had like $500 to my name. I mean, it was like I was dead broke. And they taught us all this different stuff that I'd always wanted to learn: how to work with expireds, how to work with for sale by owners. And I went home. They gave us a homework assignment, and I did it. And I got a couple of leads in like 20 minutes. I'm like, man, this is awesome. Wow. So I go the second day, same thing, right? And they teach us some more. They teach us about behavioral styles. They teach us a listing presentation. They teach us about, just other things like that. And I go home again, and I get a couple of leads again. I'm like, man, this is really working. And so the third day, I remember they announced how much coaching was. It was $1,000 a month. At the time, that was more than my condo. My condo payment was like $950 a month. And so I'm sitting there like, these guys are insane. But I'm also like, shit, this is working. And so I just threw my hat over the fence. I remember I filled out the form. I told them, I said, look, if you run this in the next 5 weeks, it's not going to do anything. But if you'll give me 5 weeks to close this deal, then I'm going to be able to do this program. And so I did. And I remember when I was at that seminar, people had different tags on that represented if you were in coaching or whatever. And there was like 5 or 6 of them at the Jamba Juice out in the lobby. And I started talking to these agents, and they were all selling 30, 40, 50 homes a year. And I was like, how much of this are you using? And they're like 20%, 25%, 40%. And I was like, I remember thinking like, well, you guys are idiots. Like, why don't you just do 100% if it works? And they kind of laughed. They're like, well, it's really hard. The Mike Ferry system's all about, role play, prospect 3 hours a day, lead follow-up, appointments all night. I mean, that's the system, right? And so I remember when I decided to sign up, I said, you know what, I'm going all in. I had, again, huge motivation to get rid of this debt. And my first full year as an agent, so that first 6 months, I sold like 4 homes. The next 6 months, I think I ended the year with 60 sales. The next year, I sold 98 homes with 1 assistant. And, I was winning all the awards and the whole thing, and was just kind of off to the races. But I gave 100%. I did every single thing he taught me to do. And it works. And so, yeah.
When it comes to that, how much of that pain point, right, of just having an extraordinary amount of debt, and I guess I'll give you some context so it's not a loaded question, but I love whys. I know people need whys, and I love vision boards and dreams, and sometimes it just lacks, not context, but just, it's hard to relate to stuff like that, right? Like when you're dreaming about this $40 million mansion on your vision board, or et cetera, et cetera. It's like, it's cool and it's romantic, but sometimes it's just hard to really it's just not tangible, right? But fucking pain points they're real tangible. Like it sleeps with me at night. And if I forget to tuck it in, it comes real close and hugs me right around my fucking throat and just doesn't let me breathe, right? And like, I know Eli has a similar story of being negative. He doesn't have a day $1 or either. His shit was negative. Yours was negative. And, how much of the reality of that pain point affected your fight or flight and just really getting after it and just like back against the wall, only up from here, and like just really committing. And talk to me about that.
That's why I said it was the gift of my life to have that debt, because I just came out swinging, and, I was doing a coaching session with somebody the other day. We were doing a mini mastermind, and he's overweight, one of the, more overweight guys in the entire group. And we were talking about goals for next year. And he said, I really want to get in shape. I want to lose this weight. And I kind of said, hey, can I have permission to press you a little bit on this? I said, because you've been talking about that for a while now and nothing's happened. And I said, like, why do you want to lose the weight? He's like, oh, like I want to go to my daughter's wedding when I'm older. It's kind of those things that you hear, right? Like, oh, I want to be healthy when I'm 50. And I was like, hey, this kid's like 25. And I was like, well, do you have a daughter yet? He was like, no. I was like, you have a wife and she loves you no matter what. Yeah, he's got a great wife. Yeah. I said, dude, your problem is you just don't have any pain around this. Like, to be honest, I said, and I will go, where do you self-sabotage? It's like, where do you eat bad? Where do you cheat? Where do you do these things? I started, it's pretty much every day. And I said, dude, if you let me press you here, I'm going to give you some pain because you need some pain around this. And if you don't get any pain, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to change. He's like, yeah, go for it. And I was like, well, is your wife in shape? He's like, yes. I said, you think she likes having sex with you? You think that she loves, like, I go, do you turn the lights off every time you have sex? You don't have to stare at yourself. I go, do you have to like pull your gut up so you can actually like perform and do the things? I was like, do you think that she pictures other dudes that are in shape when she's fucking you? I said, I know she is. I guarantee you she is. And I said, dude, I was like, and all of a sudden you saw his whole demeanor change. Like, damn, this doesn't feel very good. And I said, well, at the end of the day, you just don't have any pain in your life. You have a good life. You have a good life and you'll always have a good life. And if that's not a problem, great. Like excellence isn't for everybody. But if you want to be in shape, like what you're doing isn't working. Like it's just easier for you to half-ass it the way you're doing it than so I'm creating a little pain for you because the truth is like, dude, your wife does deserve better. She deserves somebody that's going to be in shape for her. She didn't sign up for this bullshit when she married you. This is what you looked like when you got married. All of a sudden it was, we'll see. I've had 11 guys out of 50 in this particular group have lost 40 pounds or more in the last 9 months because we hold each other accountable. Yeah, we actually care. And there's a formula to transformation. There's a chemistry to it. And when you put all those things into place, all of a sudden you get real change.
Just putting intention behind something mixed with accountability with the group that's going to see you show up every week fat or making progress. It's interesting, right?
Yeah, you have accountability. You're loved no matter what. You can show up however you want. We're going to love you regardless. And you're capable of so much more. And so like, let's talk about our self-sabotaging behaviors. Let's hold each other accountable. Let's make some changes. And then, let's get the skills that we lack or the knowledge that we need in order to make those shifts, whatever area of your life it is, financial, physical, whatever that might be. And that's how you
What's his biggest change? Like, where does he just for the sake of the audience that maybe can relate to it, is he successful in business and he just
makes a couple $100,000 a year, super successful, has a beautiful wife, has a bunch of friends, has
so he just got complacent to just gain
has
weight.
A good life,
So there's just no real passion behind maintaining.
There's his health. Well, and people used to do it with me with like being single. They're like, dude, eventually you've got to decide to get married and make that change. And my life was like exactly what I'd always wanted it to be. And it was like, well, I have no pain around this. And so I tried even getting myself to like be more serious about starting a family. Yeah. I would try to give myself future pain. And I'd be like, all right, well, if you're still doing this when you're 45 or 50, like maybe that doesn't work very well. And, you're alone on Christmas and trying to like but it's so much harder to create a pain that isn't real. And
dude, I'm
like
39
now. It needs to be tangible,
Yeah. Like I can't wake up and take a big shit and lose the 5 pounds anymore.
No.
Right. Like those days are done, but it's interesting, right? Cause like, I kind of get stuck on hyperboles or just romantic things that are said nowadays. Like one of them is how you do one thing is how you do everything, and that's a famous one and everyone gets jazzed up for that. I'm the only moron that's like, no, wait. That's not true. That's not true. Like how Warren Buffett takes care of his fitness is not how he takes care of his stocks.
Right.
No, man, it's just not true. How, but like what I do like is, like identifying what you do great. And then finding out like why and what about that you do, like how you do that so great. Because whatever you do great, even if you're the most fit dude on the planet and that's what you do great, but but business could be better or whatever it may be. In anything you do great, there's shit inside of that you don't want to do. Right? It's like if you're great at business, right? But you've let your physical go, but you're great at business, a couple $100,000 a year, $1 million a year, like you're great at it. There's stuff in that business you don't want to do. But why do you do it? Like dissect what you're best at to identify the formula so you can aspire to do everything like you do that one thing so great. We all got that one or two things we do great, but you got to figure out what that roadmap is and why, and then correlate that to your diet, to your fitness and figure it out. Because then however you tolerate what you don't want to do over here, I bet you got some resolve that mitigates the things you don't want to do inside of your great attribute that you can then deliver to self-sabotage with your diet or with your fitness, and like I don't know if you hear a lot of that stuff, Jimmy, like at your level with just the gurus out there, but sometimes, man, when you dive into like what they're actually saying, I'm just like, no, man, I don't think that's true.
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky because, like, people are consistent. I will say this. Eddie Purcell is the one that had that quote that you said, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And, his office, I've been there. And if he's showed me, and if you don't line up all the weights correctly, like you will be fired. If you don't clean up the sink after you do it, you'll be fired. But there are, like, you as a military guy, you can appreciate this. Like,
so I agree. So real quick to pause, I agree because Andy's not saying it theoretically. Andy's saying, no, how you do one thing here is how you're gonna fucking do everything here, right? Like we were on his podcast, buddy of ours. Like, I think so I guess my correction is it just the context in which I hear other people take that quote. They're taking it out of context and like the way they try to apply it. I just don't think it's accurate. But sorry about that, Jimmy. Just want to.
No, and you got to look, like you're going to have things that you naturally are really good at, things that you gravitate to, things that challenge you. And the key to life is to really double down on all the things you're already really talented at and to find somebody to do the other things better than you. Like when I try to do my own accounting, it's a mess, right? When hell, my driving is terrible. Like I know what I am and I know what I'm not, right? And I think that's the key is having that self-awareness. But if you need somebody to throw an event or you need somebody to get a group of people together and go deep and really connect and set a safe container for people to be vulnerable and authentic, like I'm your guy. Like I have my skills. And so my goal is to create as many scenarios where I can, if Michael Jordan's going to set up, if he was trying to be successful in every area of life, he's going to set up as many basketball games as he can to help every other aspect of his life, because that's where he thrives, 100%. Right? It's like you want to really focus on those things and create the most value that you can with the skills you have, but then being self-aware enough to go, hey, maybe this isn't necessarily the thing I should be focusing on. Who is great at it? And then there's an art in being able to let that go and letting other people do it. I think that's as important as anything. Is like, you don't have to be great at how you do everything, but you do have to be aware of the things you don't do good and being able to delegate those or, remove those from your plate.
And still have somebody do great at it, so the standard's still there.
Well, and as a real estate agent, it's like such a perfect example, right? Like as there's so many agents, they waste so much of their day in minutia or bullshit work. And it's simply because they don't want to spend the energy to do the stuff that's tougher. Yep. Like the reason why I was such a good, my best year, I sold 497 houses with 3 agents. Like that was my team.
Wow.
And the reason we were able to do that is because we were ninjas at what we did. We had 7 assistants, but the 3 of us that were selling the homes stayed focused on that. And I was able to stay in the trenches all day. So was Tyler, and then we had our buyer's agent was out showing homes all day. And so like between the 3 of us, we absolutely played our role. And I didn't try to get out of prospecting, cold calling, making calls. I was completely content doing that. Tyler was doing 12, 10 appointments a day with people, like literally sitting down and going through a strategy session with them. And so it was like clockwork, just people coming in and out and buying homes.
Dude, that's awesome. Going from that amount of homes, right? Going from your team and the amount of homes that you're doing. Talk to me about where We Are the They came from.
Yeah. So about 4.5 years ago, I'd always had this goal to be the number 1 agent in Utah. I think every agent has a goal to be number 1, and if you drive down any city in America, you see all the billboards, there's a lot of metrics you can call yourself that by, but I wanted to be number 1 based on like the number of sales. And that year I just sold the most expensive home ever in Utah. It was $32.5 million. And, I made almost 7 figures in like 20 minutes of work. And I got to the spot, I was number 1 that year in Utah. And I was satiated with it. It just didn't do for me like what it used to. And I was doing a meditation and it came to me super clear, like you need to do something more impactful. And at the same time, there was a realtor about that time that had passed away. And he was a great agent and used a lot of the same methods that I did. And when he died, he actually got shot collecting rent at a 4-plex he owned. Crazy story, but
he was murdered.
Yeah, straight up.
Oh my gosh, man.
And every story in the paper, in the news, everything was like realtor dies, realtor. And I remember thinking to myself, God, if I die tomorrow and that's all, I mean, realtor is a great life. Don't get me wrong. But if that's all I was known for, like I would be sad. Like that's, if that was my legacy.
And so you want more impact to the public to where not just your friends and family identify you as more, but like the actual newspaper, the public identifies you as bigger than a realtor.
It wasn't it wasn't that. It was more so like I have all these skills and talents and abilities. Like I need to use them for more good. I need to like actually affect the difference of the world more. And so I started becoming obsessed with this. Like, what can I do better than anyone else? Like, what would I do if money wasn't an issue? And And I kind of came up with this thought, it was like a lot of guys would reach out to me on Instagram and they'd always be like, dude, where do I find a group of friends like you have? You guys are so tight. You're always doing amazing stuff together, living this amazing life. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, that's my gift. Like I've always been able to collect good people and reunite people and make friendships, very deep friendships with everybody. And so I just threw my hat in for that, man. I just said, you know what, that's what I'm going to go in on. That's what my mastermind's going to be about. I'm going to teach men how to connect on a deep level. And so I did my 40th birthday party. It was kind of a test run. I got 30 of my best buddies out there. We drove to this place called Moab, Utah. It's about 3 hours. You know where it's at because you're from Denver.
Yeah.
And we did, my buddy has this giant rope swing they set up. You jump and fall like 300 feet into this canyon. We just did it last weekend again. It's the scariest thing in the world. Like I've done everything you could do. I've been to 106 countries. I've swam with tiger sharks without a cage. I've done whatever you can do. And it's the scariest thing I've ever done. And so we all jumped off the rope swing and I put this whole exercise behind it, like what we were leaving behind, which bad habit or, limiting belief or negative relationship. And my buddies all came home. Like a couple of their wives even were like, I don't know what you did to my husband out there, but he's a different man. Like, thank you, Yeah. And so that launched it. I said, this is what I'm going to do. And so I was hoping people would sign up when I first launched it. My mastermind, I'd been on this path of trying to like become a better version of myself. I just was obsessed with that for 15 years. And so I was going to every seminar, every conference, every mastermind, reading the books. I read hundreds of books, like just had all the coaches. And so I was really been on this path of self-improvement. And I was like, what if I just put all this into a course, all the best stuff that I learned. And, but I also knew because I'd been to so many things, what worked and what didn't. And I knew the number I wanted was 50 because anything over that, it's really hard to go deep with the relationships. Yeah. And so I launched my program and hoping to sell it out. And I thought it would take me a month to sell the 50 spots. And within 8 hours, I had 147 people had applied. Damn. And it was like game on. So we're almost to 500 members in my group now. It's been 2 years, almost to the day. And I've got another group going this weekend. It's our first event. I got 55 new guys about to meet each other for the first time tomorrow. And going to build it. So I keep them in their own pods so that they can keep those deep relationships. So each pod is, each group has its own group of 50,
it's all group
guys.
training, but they stay with their same group. So whoever so you have phases. Once a quarter, this thing opens up, but then whoever gets a spot that quarter, that's
every 6 months. Yeah.
That's your pod. That's your, those are your boys. And then it's in person. You guys do the swing. You guys do something in person. And from there, it's like, it's all online, or how does the logistics work?
Yeah. So we get together once a quarter with that group. And then we get together once a week on a call on Zoom. Correct. So we have our Zoom. So I do 5-6 Zoom calls every week.
Yep.
And then about every 3 weeks, I'm doing an event in person, one of these, but they're so fun. I mean, 50 dudes, we rent out big old Airbnbs. 2 weekends ago, we went skydiving with the group, paintballing. I had a couple of big speakers come in, Cody Sperber and Pace Morby, friends of mine that are just influenced.
Pace is cool.
Yeah. I mean, I just get all these guys that come in and speak to us. We do these crazy stuff. I do a lot of like breath work and meditation, and we do a lot of really vulnerable exercises to help men connect deep. And, a lot of guys will share stuff they've never shared before and really open up that space. And so that's what it's all about. And it's really cool because when somebody gets seen like that in that space and loved, and they can feel it, like there's 15 people in my house right now just hanging out from the group. And one of the guys asked if he can come tomorrow and speak to the group. And, about 9 months ago, he got up in front of the group and he talked about he'd been sexually assaulted as a kid. He said, these words have never come out of my mouth, but a neighbor a couple times in a tree hut kind of thing. And it's just completely changed his life to be able to talk about it and be loved. He's like, can I come share my story with the group? I'm like, hell yeah, you can. So, he's driving 3.5 hours just to come and pour into this new group and show them how, the benefits of vulnerability. And so, yeah, it's working, man. It's having the impact I was hoping it would. And, I miss real estate a little bit, but this has been so much more rewarding. And real estate's rewarding, but this has just been another level.
I love real estate, right? Because I feel, because Eli and I, we're starting to kind of like take a similar path, than you. We don't have that, like the group thing that you've got. That's amazing. By the way, like Eli, if you could step up your cool points a little bit, maybe we'll get invited to some cool shit like this.
Jesus, shit together, Eli. Let's go.
I know it. But you know what I do love about real estate is like, you get exposed to a lot of people in business. You get exposed to sellers and buyers that are doing all different sorts of things. You learn how to, if you're great at real estate, by the way, like your CRMs and your organizational skills and your delegation skills and like everything that goes into relationships and maintaining those, like you just start developing a lot of skill set that can then transcend you into another platform, which is kind of like what we're taking on. And obviously like with my background, with what I've mentioned to you with military and some different things, like I kind of yearn for like what you do as well, right? Because like, you know, like for example, in January coming up for WealthCon, speaking at WealthCon with Ryan Pineda and being able to share a stage with Tim Tebow, it's like I feel like, you know, I'm starting to serve my purpose again. And it's not that I didn't want to serve it through real estate. It's that you just have to get back into a craft and hit a professional level at something to feel like you've got a thesis and you've got this backbone to speak contextually from. And it's interesting because Eli was the one that actually started like nudging me more into that as we were growing our success. He's just like, hey, dude, the things that you're giving away inside of rooms with 5 people, it's not that those 5 people aren't important. It's that the whole freaking world needs to hear everything that you're doing and just from your background and how you've correlated it here. And then, but you know what I love about it, Jimmy, is like, I'm now having to take all of my experiences, but now I have to recreate deliverables for what I'm doing now as a presenter or a speaker or a coach. It's like, because it's one thing to be a practitioner and take my skill sets from military, et cetera, to then here. Cool. But like now it's like, well, now it's even bigger than real estate. And these, you've got to create deliverables, and deliverables by storytelling, examples, training, you know, like just different phases of what they should be doing. It's stimulating because it's that new thing. It's that new challenge that forces you to be the next version of yourself that's required of you to then be a deliverable there. Which is a lot of fun.
Very well said, man. It's one of the fun parts about being, you know, in my position now is like I said, I got to do 5 or 6 calls every week. So I'm just forces me. I got to study for an hour or 2 every day. So I'm growing more than anybody, right? Like I'm getting the huge benefit of this. And yeah, it's for me too. I want to get this message to everybody. And so, you know, that's why I wrote a book. Ed Milet is my one-on-one coach. And he kept telling me, dude, you got to get this stuff in a book. We got to get to everybody. And so I wrote the book and it comes out in February, and Ed actually did the forward on it. And it's called Be One. It comes from the Marcus Aurelius quote, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. And the subtitle is How to Be a Healthy Man in Toxic Times. And you guys can appreciate kind of, you know, some of the bullshit we got to deal with nowadays. And so I'm super pumped for that because it's kind of all the things I teach in my course. I've put it in this book and I've told a lot of the stories, and so that people it can get into the hands of a lot more people. And like you said, it's a whole new skill set for writing, for speaking, for coaching, and everything else.
But we appreciate what you do because, again, it just seems authentic. And again, it's not to be negative toward other people, but there's definitely some charlatans and then just some guys that I think deep down are good dudes, but they're becoming this character to be an extreme version of something that's then somehow displays what alpha looks like. And I'm like, listen, man, I have served with fucking giants. Alphas are exactly what they need to be when they need to be in any given moment. And that's vulnerable. That's patient. That's kind. That's listening. That's empathetic. That's I'll wear your fucking skin. That's I'll take your fucking life. Right? All of them. But like, we tend to like on social media now, we're just the land grab, right? Because everybody was like, oh, toxic masculinity. It was one extreme and then it started coming back to the other. So then you had these extremists putting out their version of what an alpha male is. And it's like, you guys are talking to or highlighting 1 or 2 attributes out of 1,000. And those are the least things we need to be. Now, sometimes the most important thing we need to be, because if you ever have to be that level of protection for your family or for your country, you better be that because it's important. That's life or death. However, there's like 1,000 other things we're going to be 1,000 times over realistically before you ever actually have to maybe be that. But it's only just those 2 little things that get talked about by these characters, you know? And it's like some of those dudes, I'm like, oh man, I think that guy's a good guy, but he sees the land grab. So he becomes the extreme. And it's like, yeah, man, good initiative, bad judgment. Because what is that doing to our youth? You know, it's like, we know what you're doing in business, but what about the ones that are malleable, that are actually watching, you know? And it's like, what are you doing? So like, I just appreciate what you're doing at scale because one, I admire what you're doing in business. I aspire, but I just feel like you're still being you. I don't feel like you've developed a fucking character that you're portraying. I feel like,
well, let me, you know, it's a lot of people. I think a lot of people, the only people around them are telling them what they want to hear. And I got best friends and family members, honestly, from, you know, that have known me since the day I was born. My closest, I got 8 buddies from high school. We're still super tight, talk almost every day.
Wow.
You know, my friends that I have that are the closest to me, even the ones after high school, we've been close for 15 years and we've been in the trenches,
they
you know.
check you. They'd be like, yo, bro.
100%.
What
so
the
that's
hell?
what I was getting at is, yeah, they're like, dude, so they check me all the time and I'm just like, shit. So, you know, it's important in life to have people that help you. I told this analogy to a buddy the other day. It was my buddy Travis's birthday party, and he's one of my best buddies, and just dude's just like, looks like he walked off a GQ magazine, but he's such a good dude in every way, family guy. And I was telling him I had this dream. It was like kind of in a meditation thing that I was doing. And you know, I've never been married, and it's very hard if you're playing chess for the king to stay alive. It's damn near impossible if you don't have a queen on the board, unless you have a lot of other pieces to protect the king. Right. And I was like, I've got my 2 castles, my buddies that help me stay grounded. You know, I've talked about the different buddies in my life, and there's like, I got my knights, right? The dudes that give me adventure and fun. And I got my bishops, the dudes that bring me back to spirituality and ground me as well. And I was like, then I got the pawns. I got all the people I get to coach and mentor and that look up to me. And I was like, damn, I was like, this is why my life still worked, because I have so many people that, you know, pour into me and that help ground me and help me focus. And I mean, last night I had a big issue with my program and I wasn't sure what to do on it. And I called one of these buddies and I said, hey man, I got an issue. I need to talk to you. And he spent 30 minutes on the phone with me and he helped me see a perspective. And I'm so glad he did. I would have burned down a relationship that I didn't need to. Instead, I was able to honor this person. I still made the shift and, you know, I removed them from the organization, but in a way where they were grateful and they felt relieved, as opposed to me, you know, really going after them and breaking them down. And so it was, you know, I'd really have great people around me. And really that's what it's all about, man. You've got to have amazing people around you so that, you know, you don't freaking think that you're the
100%
the shit. And, you know,
yeah. Question for you when it comes to like these adventures, and is there anybody that ever decides like not to do the skydiving or not to do the swing? They're like, yo man, I'm coming and I'm glad to be a part of your group coaching and be a part of this pod, you know, but hey man, I ain't swinging.
So we've had about 220 people show up to the swing. I mean, that cliff don't lie, man. You're standing there. So this was my 5th time doing it last weekend. And I didn't want to go. It was like, if I'm being honest, it was my worst one yet. I'm like, how is this not getting easier? It's supposed to get like a damn ice bath. It just never gets easier. And I'm sitting there, and there was one guy, it took him 30 minutes, man. And he got off the rope. He got stuck on the top. He couldn't jump. They, you know, took him off so other people could jump. And then he got back on. And there's about a 10% success rate if they to come off the, you know, once they're ready to go and get back. And I'll be damned, man. He finally just went. And it was such a beautiful moment, kind of like my moment of the trip. We've only had one guy out of every group not jump. And true story, dude, his whole life fell apart afterwards. I don't know if it was just like manifested what was, or just kind of showed what was already happening mentally for him. But he got stuck up there and he ended up, like, his wife was cheating on him. He got kicked out of his company for not working and just all sorts of stuff. His whole life went to shit. He dropped out of our group shortly after, you know, and I was like, damn, man, like, you know, that rope doesn't lie. I mean, when you go, if you don't jump, it does though, like, cause you know that you gave in to that fear and that pressure. And the whole point of my program is to help people. If I can help you jump off that cliff, all of a sudden having a tough conversation with your wife isn't that big of a deal, or with your boss or with your kid, or you know, getting your ass out of bed in the morning is a little bit easier. Whatever you know, making your cold calls with work or real estate or whatever. And so that's the whole reason we do it. But I've only had one guy not, so we're like 220 have jumped and one has not.
That's cool, man. That's a good success rate. It's nice for people to have a way to like instill that in them, you know. And I feel, you know, what I really like about it is like you've got this mission, this intent, this, you know, what are we giving up? What are we leaving behind? What are we giving up? What you know, commitment are we making to ourselves that it's going to be like the beginning of the new version of myself, and I'm leaving these things behind. And then you go jump into the most invigorating sensation / fear / excitement / it's almost like baptismal. Is that the right word?
It absolutely is. Yeah. There's a death and a reawakening.
Like, it's one thing to be driving home going, all right, I'm not going to order Taco Bell on the way home. I'm done being fat. But you're just driving home and there's nothing that really triggers your response to anything. But then you're like, I'm not eating, you know, fast food, and I'm reading books and whatever. And then you go baptize yourself into a fucking swing like that. They're like, it's gotta like ignite.
I had a video sent to me today from one of my guys. He was in group 1. He said, dude, watching you guys back, because 2 years ago to the weekend is when we jumped the last time. Yeah. Or the first time. And he sent me this video. One of my guys from group 1, he's actually a realtor in California. Really Shout out to Robert Mack, dude, this freak. He one of the top agents in California, but he joined the group and he's been smoking for 18 years. Nicotine was his big vice. And he just decided he was done with it.
Wow.
And he sent me a video to literally got it today. He had to send it like 3 times. Damn thing wouldn't go through. File was too big, but he's like just telling his story, and he hasn't smoked another cigarette, nothing, 2 years now. And he's like, I thought I was just gonna be a smoker for the rest of my life. And when he jumped off the cliff, he actually yelled, he's like, fuck nicotine.
But dude, there's just so much power. There's just so much emotion like going through your body. Like, and I think I can relate, right? Just because of like the crap I've jumped out of, or just the different things that I've done that have created like adrenaline dumps, and sometimes exciting, sometimes in the worst way, and like I think that like I resonate with my past and my story, which allows me to identify with pain points and to not be afraid of them, and to have the conversation and to make the pivots. But what's really hard though is like I can't just take that and make it a deliverable for someone else, but the things that you're doing, unlike any other men's group I've heard. I know there's some out there where like they'll hose you down on the beach and smack your pee and make you feel like a Navy SEAL for a weekend, like not the same. Not the same, like,
I try to get guys to do stuff that, here's my whole thing that I tell the guys, like, so I do a big prep the night before we jump off the swing, and we do this, and I take them through this whole exercise for 2 hours. And part of what I say is I said, in life, you want to do as many things as you possibly can that you're going to remember when you're 90.
Yeah. 100%.
Like, this a day, you're about to have a moment tomorrow you will never forget. This
would be a great little docuseries.
Oh, it's totally. I mean, we've
like a
got
4 or
so
5
much
episode thing on just like the heart of some of these engagements, but like the night before, the mornings of, and just like the mission statements in between the actual, execution of a jump or anything else. Like that'd be such a cool mini series, man.
Yeah, I mean, we've really tried to capture what this thing is. It's really hard unless you're there, because it's so much deeper than what it looks like, and but I do have a lot of so what we've started doing is every event I'd have 3 mini documentaries being made. So I have 3 guys that we're following, and we're trying to tell their story try to kind of bring this to, and
to validate it, to just validate the actual like transition of it. And really cool, man. Like, obviously this is probably the biggest thing that you're working on right now, right? This is your new thing outside of real estate, but it's your baby. So it's mission, right now in 2024 and beyond, to really just scale this? Or where do your thoughts go with what you're in right now? And like, I guess what I'm getting at is like, how are you still approaching every day like it's day $1.0? That mentality of the pain points of being negative 120,000, how does that still resonate today? And then what's the bigger vision for the business right now?
Yeah, it's I started coaching. I have this amazing life coach named Melissa that I started coaching with 7-8 years ago through Tony Robbins. And my very first call, I still have the journal with all my coaching calls. It's 300 pages of notes by now. But my very first call with her, I said to her, I said, by then I'd been Realtor of the Year and all the different things, and I said, everybody thinks that I've, just have this amazing thing that I've accomplished and done. I said, I haven't even started what I feel like my purpose is. I wrote that in the journal.
Oh, wow.
And, it was like, that's how I approach it. Like, at that point I'd sold thousands of homes already. I had millions of dollars I'd made and invested and things like that. But I really felt that, and I still do. I don't know where I'm supposed to end up, but I'm like, I know that this thing right now, if it never changed from what it is today, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever been a part of, and it would be perfect. Yeah. That being said, we just moved into a headquarters right now. I'm starting another group today or tomorrow. I'm just pushing, man, on all levers, and that's all I know. And so I don't know where it ends up. I kind of have my own little vision for what this will end up being. I think my goal is to end up with 2,500 members across the country, really banding together in this. But then, sometimes I think that my next step isn't even in this. It's going to be with a family and actually settling down and finding a place in the woods. So I don't know, like I go back and forth.
No, man, that's super cool. Like if there's an ideal, like we just hit like our millionth download and it's doing pretty well. And there's a lot of folks we got so many followers from Andy Frisella after being on his show, and we've got a ton of realtors, we've got a ton of entrepreneurs, men, women, all in between. And maybe there's a girl out there that's got a boyfriend or a husband and she could recommend you, or there's guys listening right now, but obviously the easy questions before we let you get out of here and not take too much of your time, like obviously with, where everyone can find you, what's the best way to contact you. But, ideally, like when it comes to like men, that you're looking for, like, I know the easy answer is all aspects of life, but is there a way that you really articulate, or is there a message you got for men out there right now, or for women that are listening that might have a boyfriend or significant other that could, be one of those men that are for you? Like, what do you have to say to them, man?
Yeah, man. And go listen to my podcast. I interview some of my members. There's one coming out with a guy named John Hammond, and he's a perfect example. So this is like a perfect avatar for us. He'd watched the transformations of another guy that he knew that was in my program. And he said, I didn't really have close friends. I wanted close friends. So that's one. If you don't have a tribe, like if you don't have guys that's truly deep, like they know everything about you and love you anyway, you can call them and be like, dude, my wife's cheating on me. Or dude, I just freaking looked at porn. I hadn't done it in 6 months. Or dude, like, I think I'm going to kill myself. Like whatever. And the guy's like, all right, I got you. What do you need? You know, like if you don't have that tribe, if you don't have people that you have that kind of relationship with, then you need to come and join our group. Like that's number one. And number two, this guy said that he just didn't have any purpose for his life. He didn't know what he was doing. He didn't know what, his kid was suicidal. He was 75 pounds overweight. His kid got in our next gen program, lost 75 pounds. I'm not going to try to take that credit. That was that kid's credit, but he found his tribe as well, and all of a sudden, and the dad, I love this guy. He was a firefighter. And he said, dude, he said, from the moment I walked in, he said, I felt so accepted by this group. I felt like I finally found my people. And so that's what we're going for. That's what we're trying to do. And so if you feel like you don't have a tribe, like if you got a tribe, great, you're set, like whatever. But also if you feel like you want some skills and maybe some different knowledge that you don't have, if you want to work on the emotional side of things, if you got something that you've suppressed and you don't want to talk about it, these are the things that the breakthroughs we have in my group. These are the people that really need the program. Yeah. But also if you want to lead other men, if you want to freaking be, a badass leader and just help other men that are, I have one guy in the group, he's retired, dude has an amazing wife. He's all the money in the world. And he just came down last weekend. He begged me to come down. He goes, can I please come pour into these guys? And he's such a mentor to him. And he's found his next purpose after retirement. And it goes to lunch for 2 hours every day with a new member of the group. And he'll never run out because there's so damn many of them,
And obviously we'll put all the details, like in the description below. And I want to add one thing though, because when you say like, hey, if you got your tribe, no problem. Don't worry about it. You're set. Kind of. We have to say,
I mean, you still obviously you don't, but if you have a tribe,
well, you do. If you had a great tribe, but like, how could you contribute to them, right? Like in the Marine Corps, you'd be with your unit, right? 3rd Battalion, 1st Marines, you're in Kilo Company, you're a squad leader. So you have your squad. Cool. But they would send you to schools like squad leaders course, Hearst Masters course, different specialty schools, right? And the ideology was, hey, we're sending this sergeant, this squad leader to here, because not only is he going to become a subject matter expert in these tactics that we need for deployment, he's going to come back and not only pour into his own squad and teach, because he's now an instructor for this, he can now pour into the whole company. So even if you've got your tribe and you're like, man, I'm good, I love my men, everything's great, like, yep, could you still be curious about going somewhere else at scale that's potentially further down the road that then gives you deliverables that you can bring back to your tribe as a gift,
Yeah. And I would even say the guys that are thriving the most in the group already had a strong group of friends, because they already know how to connect with other men. They know how to help these guys.
They become those force multipliers for you.
They do.
Man, that's great. That's great. Well, listen, man, I've been watching my clock carefully, I want to make sure we don't keep you too long, but just super cool with what you're doing. I know I'm sure you heard a lot, but just, we appreciate your authenticity with
100%.
And I know your buddies would call you out, et cetera, but just not, I think I feel it a little bit as I grow of like, well, how do I say this? Or how do I say that? Or where do I go about this? And there's just something to be said about just being authentically yourself, yet still being powerful without a character to deliver a message that still reaches many, and you're doing things with this men's group that's unheard of, dude.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's just unheard of. It's cool. And like, I bet Eli would do great on that swing. I'd have to hold the camera. I've cheated death enough, so I'm gonna stand on the.
Good. Let's get you out there.
Yeah.
All I hear is fear talking.
I'm gonna stand there with a banana, and I'm gonna film.
You got to remember, I'm a pretty damn good salesman. That's why all but one of my guys have jumped off that cliff. I got about 10 different things to say.
I know.
To trigger every part of your ego. So,
dude, listen to me. I'm easy, right? Because like I've already lived the Marine Corps and mercenary work. You guys ain't poking my ego. What you do is you just kidnap me and just tie me up, and I wake up halfway across the valley.
They used to do that with Mr. T on A-Team. Remember that?
Yeah, don't waste your time talking to me. Just you know what you could do? Oh, Jimmy, this is a great event for his men.
Let's hear it.
You guys should have Operation Kidnap a Marine.
Oh, there we go.
You guys get together. You go paintball, you learn tactics, you learn different stuff to induce me, to knock me, tranquilizers to knock me out. You bring me back to Utah, and then you throw me on a swing.
So we actually do it. So our third mastermind, Jason Van Camp is a big buddy of mine.
Yeah,
he was
he's
a commander over 1,000 troops. He does Warrior Rising.
100%.
So he and his boys come out, and we're all just sitting there, and we have a plant in the audience, and they throw these green smoke grenades, start shooting blanks everywhere. It's chaos. They kidnap the dude, they chuck him, and then the guys have to go rescue him and get him back. It's part of the thing. And then we have to go through torture training. I waterboard the guys. It's freaking hilarious. But
yeah, dude. Damn. Jimmy, you got it going on, buddy. You're doing some cool stuff, man.
We're having fun. If nothing else, like, you know, at the end of the day, like, also, if you want to be the best dad, like, show your kids you have a passionate life for yourself. You know how cool it is for these kids to watch their dads swim with sharks and jump off cliffs and freaking do this crazy stuff. And, you know, their kids are just can't get it. Like, my dad did this. And all of a sudden, when dad tells you to do something, you're a little bit more prone to do it because you actually want to be like your dad, as opposed to seeing this guy that gave up on all his own dreams telling you how to live yours, you know?
Well, and think about that. I'll leave you with this, right? Because I know we have to let you get going here soon. When we were kids, all we did was figure out how to like put boxes together with the trampoline to jump off the side of the house, or kidnap our buddy, or steal his bike and make, you know, and it's like the stuff that you're doing. It's like, it's still like, it's important, and there's deliverables and there's life lessons to it. But we're also like just reigniting the kid in us again of just like doing some fun shit, brother. You know what I mean? And just like, man, was that fun? Or like, what? Like, there's intention and lessons behind it. But at the end of the day, it's like, it just gives you that spark for life. You know, like who gets a kidnap a commander?
We do an entire weekend just trying to heal our inner child. We play dodgeball and go to the ninja course and the whole thing, right?
That's
awesome.
It's just Eli's like closet good at dodgeball because he's flat-footed, so he can just bob and weave, man. Like it's a little unfair.
That's right.
I
Jimmy,
can see that.
We're gonna throw some music on, man. We'll have all the details with your websites and your Instagram all in the text with the with the show and everything like that. But we'll start some music, man. We'll outro it and then we'll get you out of here, brother. Just give us a quick sec.
All right, day
$1. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, brother.
Out.
We're out of here.
I'ma sip it